Sarah had always thought of her home as a sanctuary. It wasn't grand, not the kind of house people paused to admire as they passed. But to her, it was a place alive with meaning. The modest two-story stood quietly on the edge of town, half hidden by tall maples whose leaves danced with the wind. When dusk fell, the balcony glowed with the soft yellow light of old lanterns she'd hung there herself, and the roses she tended with care seemed to blush under its warmth. Basil leaves released their scent whenever her fingers brushed them, and on warm evenings, Sarah often stood outside, inhaling the mingled perfume of herbs and flowers, believing, truly believing, that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Inside, life had a rhythm, a comforting one. Mark would come home around 6, loosen his tie, kiss her cheek, and ask what was for dinner. She would smile, already having prepared one of his favorites, grilled salmon with lemon, or creamy pasta rich with herbs from the balcony. They ate at the same small table, always with the same mismatched placemats, and afterward, they lingered, sometimes in the living room with a show on, sometimes walking hand in hand through quiet streets where porch lights flickered. These rituals were simple, ordinary, but in their simplicity Sarah found happiness. Mark was attentive in ways that had convinced her, early on, that she had been chosen for something rare. He remembered anniversaries, not just their wedding, but the small ones too, like the day they moved into their home, or the date of her first big promotion. He never forgot her favorite dessert, strawberry shortcake, and sometimes surprised her with it after a long week. And then there were the notes, tiny dissertations scribbled on scraps of paper, left on the fridge or tucked into her books. "You're my everything. Can't wait to see you tonight." They weren't grand gestures, but they were theirs, threads woven into the fabric of a life she thought would never unravel. For 6 years, Sarah trusted that fabric. It felt unbreakable. But threads don't always snap loudly. Sometimes they loosen slowly, almost silently, until one day the whole cloth hangs limp, fragile in ways you hadn't noticed before. It began quietly, half a year ago. Mark started staying late at the office. At first, Sarah brushed it off. He was a manager in a busy downtown firm, deadlines happened, big presentations loomed, clients demanded attention. When he called at 6:30, voice rushed, "Sarah, I'm sorry, another late night." Big presentation, she believed him without question. But then it happened again. And again. And again. The table for two became a table for one. Sarah still cooked, still set out the placemats, still tried to hold on to ritual, but the salmon went cold, the pasta dried out, and the apartment filled only with the ticking of the wall clock. She told herself it was temporary, a season of work. Still, as the nights piled on, doubt began to creep in, whispering where certainty once lived. When Mark did return, it was often past 10. His face was pale with exhaustion, or so it seemed. He kissed her absently, sometimes missing her lips altogether, as though his mind was elsewhere. He smelled faintly of cologne, not the warm sandalwood he usually wore, but something sharper, muskier. Sarah told herself she was imagining it. The distance grew not just in hours, but in words. Mark stopped telling her about his office, stopped sharing the little stories that once colored their evenings. When she asked how his day went, his answers shrank. Stressful. Busy. That was all. At night, his back was turned to her in bed. Sarah would lie awake, staring at the curve of his shoulders in the dim light, feeling as if she were reaching for him across a gulf that widened each night. Once, she almost whispered, "Do you still love me?" But fear held her tongue. She didn't want to hear the answer. The house that had once hummed with warmth felt colder now, every silence louder, every unanswered question heavier. It was a Friday when the world she trusted collapsed. Sarah was sorting the laundry, moving through the motions with the absent focus of someone clinging to routine. Mark's blazer lay crumpled in the basket. She reached into the pocket, expecting the usual: coins, receipts from lunch, perhaps a pen. Her fingers touched paper, thicker than usual. She pulled it out. A folded receipt. The words stared back at her, black ink like poison. Riverton Sweets. Room for one. Dinner for two. Her heart dropped. Her pulse thundered. She read the date, Tuesday. Tuesday, when Mark had told her he was buried at work until midnight. Her first instinct was denial. Perhaps it was business-related. Maybe the company had booked him a room. But then she saw the detail: 2 glasses of wine. Dinner for two. Two. The words blurred through her tears. Her chest tightened as if the air had been pulled from the room. Who was the other person? Why hadn't she seen it sooner? That night, when Mark returned, she said nothing. She smiled, forced, brittle. He kissed her forehead lightly, muttered "busy day," and went upstairs. Sarah watched him go, her body trembling with the weight of secrets she hadn't asked for. Later, when he slept, she reached for his phone. Her hands shook so violently she could hardly type. She had never done this before. She had always trusted him. But trust was gone, shattered like glass. She guessed the password, first his birthday, wrong. Then hers, wrong. Finally, their anniversary. The screen lit up. Her throat tightened as she opened his messages. She scrolled. She froze. So many messages. Heart emojis. Sweet words. Promises. I miss you already. Tuesday night was perfect. Can't wait to see you again. From him, I can't stop thinking about that night. You're all I want. Sarah dropped the phone as if it burned her. Her vision swam with tears. She stumbled into the living room, sat in the dark, and let the sobs come. She wept for the life she thought was hers, for the man she thought was hers, for the home she thought was safe. And in that moment, she understood the silence had never been about stress. It had been about secrets. And betrayal feels like drowning. The next morning, Sarah didn't cook breakfast. No coffee brewing, no eggs frying, no smell of toast. Instead, she sat at the small kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee gone cold. Her eyes were swollen, her lips dry, her body heavy from a night without sleep. When Mark came downstairs, adjusting his tie, he froze. His eyes immediately caught hers. She didn't look away. "Sarah, what's wrong? Are you okay?" His voice was soft, concerned. The sound of it, so practiced, so familiar, made her burn with anger. How could he pretend to care? Without a word, she slid the folded hotel receipt across the table. Mark's brow furrowed as he picked it up. His face drained of color. His lips parted, but no sound came. "Room service for two," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling but steady. "Who is Emily?" Silence filled the kitchen. Mark's hands trembled as he set the paper down. He rubbed his face, covering his eyes, as if that could shield him from the truth already spilling into the air. "Sarah," his voice cracked. "I can explain." "Explain?" Her voice sharpened. "Explain what? The lies? The late nights? The dinners and the woman you swore you loved while I sat here alone?" His shoulders slumped. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. Shame clung to him like sweat. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his eyes shining with guilt. "I never wanted to hurt you." Her laugh was bitter, hollow. "Never wanted to hurt me? Mark, you lied to me for months. You broke our vows. You broke me. And now you say you didn't mean to hurt me?" His face twisted. He reached for her, but she pulled back, her chair scraping against the floor. "Why?" she asked finally, her voice softer, almost pleading. "Why did you do it? Was I not enough? Was our life not enough for you?" Tears welled in his eyes. He shook his head. "It wasn't you. You've always been perfect. Our life was good, maybe too good. Too routine. With her, I don't know, she was new, exciting. It was a mistake, Sarah. The worst mistake of my life." Her chest ached at his words. Her eyes stung. "You told her you loved her." He had no defense. His silence screamed louder than words. "Leave," she whispered. The word slipped from her lips before she could stop it, but she meant it with every fiber of her being. Mark's face crumpled. "Sarah, please. Don't end this. I'll cut her off. I'll prove it to you. I love you. Only you." "Love?" she spat. "Love is honesty. Love is loyalty. Love is trust. And you destroyed it." For once, Mark didn't argue. He stood slowly, shoulders hunched, and walked to the door. He looked back at her, eyes wet, face stripped bare by shame and regret. Then he left. The slam of the door echoed through the house like thunder. Sarah sank to the floor, sobbing. The home that once held warmth now felt like a cage of lies. The days that followed blurred together. The house was filled with echoes of him, the coffee mug on the counter, the faint scent of his cologne on the pillow. His absence screamed louder than his presence ever had. Sarah barely ate. She barely slept. Her phone lit up constantly, calls from friends, her mother, but she ignored them. Shame pressed down on her, suffocating. Her marriage, the one she had proudly shown the world, had collapsed. Mark's messages came daily. Apologies, long confessions, desperate promises. He claimed it was over with Emily. He claimed he was lost, stupid, reckless. He said he'd do anything to earn her back. But words were just words. A week later, Sarah called her best friend, Sophie. She hadn't meant to, but the loneliness broke her. When Sophie picked up, Sarah couldn't even speak, she only cried. Sophie listened, silent at first, then said, "I'm coming over." She arrived with ice cream and 2 spoons. They ate it straight from the container on the couch. Sarah's tears mixed with laughter at Sophie's little jokes. It was the first time in days she'd felt human again. "He's a fool," Sophie said softly. "A complete fool." "But Sarah, what do you want?" Sarah shook her head. "I don't know. I hate him. I hate what he did. But I still love the man I thought I married. I still miss him." "That's normal," Sophie said. "Love doesn't vanish overnight. But love isn't enough. You need trust. You need respect. Don't settle for less." Her words sank deep, though Sarah couldn't answer. Weeks passed. Mark didn't give up. He sent flowers, left letters, begged to see her. One day, a handwritten letter arrived. His words were raw, stripped of excuses. He described how it started innocent lunches, which grew into something forbidden. He admitted everything. He didn't try to justify. He confessed shame, regret, disgust at himself. He said he was in therapy now, trying to understand his choices, trying to change. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," he wrote. "But I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn it if you let me." Sarah read the letter again and again. Part of her wanted to tear it to shreds. Another part wanted to believe. When she saw him unexpectedly in the grocery store one Saturday, he looked different. Thinner. Tired. Humbled. His eyes searched hers desperately. "Sarah," he said softly. Her throat tightened. She almost walked away, but instead whispered, "Hi." "How are you?" he asked. "I'm okay," she lied. They stood awkwardly, strangers who once knew each other's hearts. Finally, he said, "I miss you. The apartment feels empty without you." Her voice trembled before she could stop it. "I miss you too." They met for coffee. At first, they spoke only of small things, work, errands, the weather. But slowly, the wall cracked. He told her about therapy, about facing his shame. He didn't excuse. He didn't beg. He only said, "Even if you never take me back, I need to be better, for me, for you, for what we had." For the first time, Sarah believed him. She agreed to talk once a week. Some days she hated him. Some days she almost reached across the table to hold his hand. Slowly, she saw glimpses of the man she had once loved, buried under regret, but there. 3 months later, he asked, "Will you come to marriage counseling with me?" She hesitated, terrified. But she said yes. Not for him, for herself. She needed to know if healing was possible. Counseling was brutal. She told the story, every wound, every betrayal. She cried until her chest ached. He listened, broken, ashamed, whispering "I'm sorry" again and again. Their therapist said, "You can't rebuild the old marriage, but you can build a new one." And slowly, painfully, they did. Months later, Mark asked, "Sarah, can I come home?" She looked at him, studying his face. He wasn't the man who betrayed her anymore, but neither was she the woman who once believed blindly. She was stronger now, scarred but wiser. "Yes," she said finally. Their life together now is imperfect. They argue. They stumble. They heal. Mark, humbled, no longer takes her for granted. Sarah, the forgiving, knows her love is not the same. She loves him still, but differently, warier, quieter, with boundaries that weren't there before. The laughter they share feels lighter, almost fragile. She can look at him without anger, but not without remembering. The scar remains, faint but permanent. Because love, once broken, never returns untouched. And Sarah knows this truth deep in her bones. She forgave him. She chose to stay. But her heart, though still his, will never beat in quite the same way.